Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby!
Hello! Hello. Hope everyone is doing well on this lovely week. Apologies a little bit late. Had to still filling out some sound things now and then. But yeah, how's everyone been? I hope everyone has been well. There's probably not a huge number of things we're going to discuss today, because it's 1 week into the patch, and if you haven't been following along, essentially there's very little to talk about in the patch. Do they read chat, says Merc. Do they read chat? I don't know. Do you mean, do I read chat? In which case, no, I don't read chat, Mer. That's how I know you've asked the question. Yeah, so been a week, hasn't it? It's been a week since the patch. I played like shit the other day and lost horribly, he says. I'm sorry about that, but I am sorry about that. Hot by Secret NCU incoming confirmed, says the Boost King. Yeah, no. None of that. None of that. Alright, let's get ourselves kicked in. Kicked in? No, don't get yourself kicked in. That's weird. Kick-started. We're just going to dive straight in, really. Talk a little bit about the patch so far. And also, today, if you didn't know, last week we saw a stream on tactics. And it's probably worth going through the tactics stream and just showing some of the kind of stuff that we expect. I played a shit the other day. See what you mean, Brian? Very good. Yeah. I'm actually one of the people on Discord that asks you 10 questions every time. Oh right. Oh dear. Oh dear God. Lots of people ask me questions all the time, especially if I'm in a game or have just finished a game. All right then. So let's ultimately dive in. We'll cover the kind of patch first and foremost. Initially, so I'm going to open up each of the factions, and knowing how to read makes the knowing how to read does in fact make the game. We're going to look at each of the factions and see which way they are trending in the last 50. It gives a bit of an indicator of what is coming out strong in the patch for the average player, perhaps what isn't. So we see here Martel's small incline. Martel's coming out of the patch looking fairly okay. Yep. Starks, slight improvement, but borderline. I mean, it's spiky as hell, ups and downs, but like it's not going significantly up. I expect to see some more improvements with Stark, like we said. I think they've got some nice stuff going on. Brathian, steady, stable, no real significant change in the last 50. Night's Watch, small increase in the last 50, 4.3. I don't expect this to maintain that way, but it does look like they're okay. Targ, much more healthy, +7 increase. Targ's, I think, getting quite a little. Then this is last 50. This is not indicative of large amount of things. In case anyone wants to know, the last 50 takes us back to the 3rd of Feb, which is literally the weekend. Like, every single faction have had at least 50 games played on the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th. Minimum. Right? Every faction in the game. Yeah? I say that. Ooh, great. Neutrals actually haven't. I lied to you. But neutrals have not seen that much play. Not a surprise to anybody. Neutrals, generally speaking, don't see much play anyway. but minus 13 for neutrals. Neutrals taking a bit of a hit here with the patch. And Free Folk aren't looking great at minus 3.7. I don't believe that for any significant period. I think that the Varamir lists that people were running are probably worse, and therefore people are losing because they didn't really know how to play Free Folk. They just knew how to play Varamir. And so they're now like relying heavily on these Varamir style lists and losing games. Generic kind of Varamir. Double Bear Riders. What a bro. Then there's a mixed steer. But, you know, I expect Free Folk to come back up. I do not expect Free Folk to be sitting down at the doldrums. I think Free Folk have some very strong stuff in the faction. And Bolton's seeing a bit of an increase, which is good. You know, adding neutrals into Bolton's is a positive thing. I don't understand why you don't believe Free Folk by the factions. Nice and simple. I play a lot of Free Folk. And I know that the strengths of Free Folk and what is possible to do with them. I'm never, like, the average player's experience, of course, is very different, but competitive speaking, I am of the opinion that, you know, Free Folk are a very strong faction to play. So competitively speaking, even if Free Folk look low, I would still say they're one of the highest quality / tier factions that works very well at high level competitive play. High level competitive play favours the way that Free Folk play, more so than nearly any other faction, because Free Folk works around core mechanics that are strong, rather than stats that might be strong or units. So people are playing more into strength of potentially, yes. Like, I mean, to put it simply, Greyjoys did quite well because Greyjoys' kind of overall strategy was just go and hit people in the face. Greyjoys did not do that well. If you look at the competitive events that have held in the last seasons, they did okay. They didn't do badly, but they didn't do like stormingly well. Considering that they were, you know, second-ranked faction for a long time, but they didn't have a win rate that supported that in competitive events. Whereas Night's Watch, who were leading the pack, who were looking to be the most powerful faction, even though I think the game was balanced, Night's Watch was able to hold up those results by winning big events, a couple of big events wins, and by having a good tournament win rate as well. Even though they didn't necessarily place very well in tournaments. But again, we'll do a Season 2, Season 3 review, really going into the data from Season 2 and Season 3. I think there's a lot to be said about what went on competitively versus what went on. But yeah, like, all in all, first week, there's a lot of improvements, a lot of steady shit, but no significant jumps. I think that's, you know, if we look at the factions, that's the biggest takeaway from me, is that there aren't any large jumps. The things that we expected to get better got better. The things we expected to get maybe is a little bit worse, maybe aren't dropping as low as we thought. Night's Watch, though, definitely re-entering the pack now. They dropped just before the patch, and they're not regaining all those points that you'd kind of expect to see Night's Watch bounce back quite quickly. This time they're not bouncing back. That being said, let's have a look over into Commanders. And Commanders, it's still your typical Drogos. Again, Martell leading the pack at the moment, doing quite well. It's not a surprise to see Martell Commanders up here. Maybe it's a little bit of a surprise to some people. Maeve Mormont overtaking Greatjaw Umber as a predominant start commander. And Greatjaw Umber obviously still there. Baratheon's doing fine. One True King now coming into the third best place Stannis commander, or Stannis Baratheon commander on the Stannis side, of course. Which is the first time that we've seen Stannis and Renly have good spread. If you see here in the last 50, not significant change, but he has seen a lot of games played. It's the patch. Nearly all of his 50 games have come. All of his 50 games have been in the patch, which is interesting. I expect to see Stannis, One True King, and Stannis in general to improve because the remarkable improvements to King's Men, which we'll get onto in a second. If someone was trying to get competitive Free Folk, what kind of list you should lean into? Yeah, 9 activations, 10 activations, yeah. The last patch didn't really move the needle on Commanders. Yeah, that's kind of true, Evil. That's kind of true. I think the big thing here is certainly worth mentioning that like the spread of commanders was pretty good for a long time in the last patch, and we can see here in Season 3, it is only a week in, right? A week is not a huge amount of time. But as I said, there's a lot of games, a lot of people are getting play. And where are we? Yeah. Your lowest commander's still, if we ignore Bolton's just for a moment, minus 37. So it's really not that far. I think it's 80 points from top and bottom. Greyjoys won Poland LVO, so to say they don't win a competitive is true. No, you're right. They did win 2 big events. That's very, very true. I was more looking at overall win rate. I think their overall win rate from the big 5 events of the last year, if we just look at competitive win rate, was something about 50%. I think Night's Watch stood at 56%, and basically every other faction was between 45 and 50% thereabouts, except Bolton's, who, of course, were terrible. But yeah, like, competitively, like, Greyjoys were doing just as well as Night's Watch. It was just Night's Watch was showing a higher level win rate in these events. But you're right in saying that they won the same amount of big events. If we consider LVO joining the other national events in terms of size, which LVO was, 10 people under, I think? The size of the kind of average of the national events, but bigger than Germany, I think. I can't remember. I think it was bigger than Germany. The LVO is very comparative in size, yeah. But yeah, so we see, I mean, the big takeaway for me is that, you know, Night's Watch and Greyjoy, who were above the pack, Greyjoy leading the pack, they weren't really apart from the pack. Night's Watch were apart from the pack. Neither of them are above and beyond. I expect Night's Watch to come down further myself. I don't expect Greyjoys to drop. I'm surprised that Greyjoys have dropped and have stayed dropped a little bit. I think Night's Watch will drop further. I've seen the deck played a few times now, and Night's Watch have still got some very viable options. Having played them myself, seen them played a few times, they're still okay. But the deck is now, you know, they're relying on the unit quality to get them through games, not the deck. And the deck is fine, but it isn't as dominant as the deck used to be. Yeah, that's it. Nothing that I would say more about that, really. Yeah, the rest is kind of, we'll see how it shakes out. It's been a week, right? The big thing for me, I think, when we compare this patch with, say, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, Season 1 even, there has been no standout builds. In Season 2, you know, we saw the reveals and we were like, immediately, John 8, bang, build it. Season 3, we kind of like, oh, you just take the John 8 and make this change, and that's probably the best deck, or probably the best army / list you can run. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have weaknesses and it's good into literally everything in the game, but very quickly competitive players were pointing at something and saying, yeah, that's probably the best. And we see it go on to basically be the best across the whole series or the whole season. That hasn't really happened so far in this. I think the closest we've got is saying that the Steer list is probably going to be the most competitive / strongest. And that's what we spoke about last week. There's also the opportunity for, I know Carlo mentioned a Mance build as well, running kind of 10 activations, everything morale 5. We'll see if these things shake out. But really 1 week in, when previously 1 week in we've said, yep, here's a good list, and it goes on to be a good list for the rest of the season, that isn't the case so far, and that is a good thing. Part of it is I don't know how many people are looking for good lists, of course. I think the appeal to find kind of like very strong lists is probably down a little bit than it has been in previous seasons. I think people just want to play with the new stuff. People want to experiment a lot more, play stuff that they think might seem good, that feels good to play. And I think there's a lot more experimenting with kind of like how does a list feel to play, more so than actually how strong it is, which I think is a positive. So, yeah. Let's have a look. I don't mind Martel being at the top if they stay below 30. I mean, it's kind of academic. The thing is, right, it doesn't matter where the thing at the top is, as long as the thing at the top there isn't a significant gap between that and the things below it. We spoke a lot about in previous kind of iterations of the game. The game is balanced if there are things at the top, which there is always going to be a best faction. The best faction, its counters exist outside of itself. You know, let's not go back to the days of 1.6, where Rob and Howland, the best possible list combo that you could run, its biggest counter was Rob Howland. You ran Rob for facing everyone and Howland for facing Rob Howland. So, you know, gone are the days where the counter to the strongest list was the strongest list. So that's a positive. Like that, from a competitive angle, that's positive. And then in terms of ranking, in terms of where we see things in terms of points, yes, you know, you don't want a gap between the top and the next lot. We saw it for a long period in basically all of season 3. Night's Watch was sat there around 50, and it dropped, came down a bit, then it went back up. But it sat around 50 points, and I think then everything else sat in the kind of like 20 to minus 20, give or take, region. And that's just generally speaking fine. It says, yeah, Night's Watch are the strongest. And remember what these power rankings are generally telling you is they're generally telling you the power of the base deck. And I don't think anyone would be surprised to hear that the Night's Watch base deck was the strongest from season 3, season 2, season 1, like not season 1. Still Free Folk with There's Too Many. No, There's Too Many in the Old and Swords. But season 2 and season 3, it wouldn't be surprised anyone that said Night's Watch had the deck at all. So yeah, not a surprise there. And Night's Watch coming down is indicative of the whole deck being changed, and I think it's fair to say the whole deck being nerfed. So yeah, as long as the gaps aren't too big between the top and the rest can then filter itself out. You don't want things like hanging off the bottom, such as Bolton's. You know, we say down at minus 50. Just looking at these numbers alone, we would say that Bolton's aren't very competitive. That doesn't mean they can't be. I think there's some opportunity now that you've got neutrals to make potentially competitive Bolton lists that are actually okay. They do quite well. You can probably do quite well with them. But yeah, Bolton are evidently lagging behind the rest of the factions. But, you know, what? Faction-wise, minus 15 to 27 is a spread of 42 points. That is, like, nothing. That is a tiny spread. And equates to, like, tiny win rate difference. I could probably try and work it out at the top of my head, but I'm not going to try. Where are we? Martel versus Free Folk. 6% difference in terms of expected win rate. Yes, if you add Boltons in there, it gets a little bit worse. 11%. It's a bit sad. But generally speaking, like a 6% variation from what we would consider the best competitive faction, just on the rankings, and the worst competitive faction is really not that big. The balance in this game has been a lot worse than this for a long time. So yes, yeah. Would it be best to base the best base deck now? Not necessarily, Tristan. We're currently seeing that Martels are having a relatively healthy time in first place. They were in first, it's worth remembering, and they were had the highest ranking prior to the season change. To say that they have the best deck now, I don't think is necessarily fairly true to say as yet. You know, you've got to let these things settle. We haven't seen them settle in first place with a bit of a gap or anything like that. They just happen to be on top of the pile at the moment. And if they happen to be on top of the pile, I think people see the rankings and they see 1 to 10 and they go, the order of these rankings is very important, and it isn't. Like, it actually really isn't. It doesn't matter if Martel's in first or fifth or sixth. What matters is the actual ranking number relative to the other ranking number. So we can see here 27 to 10 to 17 is like, it's 10 points. Marginal. That can be changed in one event. One event can see it change that. So this is a small gap, not a problem. And that's like, I mean, the rest of them are jokes, right? 7.4 for Baratheon down to -4 for neutral. That's a gap of like 11 points for how many factions? 1, 2, 3, 6 factions. That could change. 10 games could be submitted during this conversation right here of, say, Baratheon losing to neutral and maybe some Night's Watch losing to Lannister, and 3 through 8 would completely change position. But the numbers wouldn't change that much. They are within a ballpark. They're all roughly the same. It's about distance from the rest. Raw number distance. Not what is in first place, what is in second place. And the thing is, one of the things we would always mention, or at least one of the things I always mention, is that I do think the game is balanced enough now that certain things kind of leak through, you know, and it's what I mean. What do I mean by that? I mean that for a long period of time in the last iteration, Free Folk were at the bottom. Free Folk were not a well-performing faction. But I was firmly of the belief that Free Folk were stronger than their ELO would suggest. I believe that, and I still believe that to be true right now. You know, Free Folk down at -16. I believe that Free Folk are stronger than that. It doesn't mean they are, but it's a personal belief. Competitive gamers, people in the competitive space, will always believe things different than what the data suggests. The data is there to suggest that we're wrong. It challenges our opinion, and we want to challenge the data to go, no, the data isn't right. We believe it to be stronger than that. But that's on us to prove that it is, rather than suggesting that we're somehow right without necessarily any evidence. So, yeah. You should want to go out there and say, I don't believe Boltons are that bad. I'm going to win lots with them. And either that means Boltons are really bad because you're losing with them and your opinion's wrong, or you're winning with them, meaning that you're probably a better player than you think you are or were, or Boltons aren't actually that bad. You know, and enough games get submitted. That's the whole point, the whole idea. Faction drops or the faction drops or comes up based on actually, no, they are performing better. So yeah, that's the big thing. Which tier list? He says skin changer. No, not necessarily. There are many ways, and I know some people would say, I only know how to play factions away, but there you go. There's a list that works, proven to work. You can run this with Baroque Spore now as well, coming in at 0 points if you particularly want to. I believe this is probably going to see competitive play, and I know that Sophie are running it. Another list that was suggested was something a little bit like this. Lance Trappers. Whoop. Raiders with a skin changer. Raiders with a skin changer. Let's run Lady Val, because she's good. Craster, because he's good. John, because he's good. Raiders with a skin changer. Very imaginative list building, isn't it? 12 points left. Raiders, skin changer. And you've got 8 points left. Do with what you will. You can run 2 more units with skin changers. I think this is a bit of a joke if you're running it this far. You probably want to go something like Spearwives, and Faramir. You could even drop out one skin changer to run a raid leader or champion a bone, so you run triple skin changer, one raid leader, Spearwives, Faramir, Valcresta, Jon Snow, Trappers. There are other variations of this that don't run it at 10. This is obviously a 10 activation list. There's reason to believe something like this might be okay with a lot of 5 morale stuff and a nice heavy hitter. But play around with it. You know, I'm not going to sit here to tell you to how to run a list. But something like this might end up being pretty good. I'm testing tasks this evening and trying Stormcrow Dervishes. Probably still not good, but I want to explore things at the moment. Yes, exactly, Data. I wanted to explore things, and I have to admit, I've been playing a real mix of different stuff. I ran Steelshanks Walton in Stormcrow Dervishes, and it felt really good. I really liked it. I like how it felt. The 5 morale with Iron Resolve going to 4 morale. This is in Bolton's, obviously. That felt good. It felt good to have a unit that, yes, I only have a 4+ armor save, but in the general scheme of things, that's about as tanky as you get outside of slow 3+. And Steelshank with Iron Resolves, it felt really good. It felt like a good unit that was able to put in work. Now, I was running this in Bolton's, so I was able to use Ramsey to get Fueled by Slaughter to keep them going. But generally speaking, it felt good. What I'd also say as well, and this is something, you know, many things, you know, your variance, your mileage may vary, I should say. Kingsmen feel very good. Kingsmen feel very, very good. They hit like a truck. Sundering, crit blow, and always rerolls, while they don't control crowns, is kind of good. I ran a variation, no Cav, which is a big weakness of this list, but I ran one with Mel, Patchface, and Crescent, so I've gone heavy on the NCU side of the board. And it was fun to play. I enjoyed it. The DSN removing tokens as well is very good, because you can just stop certain things from being weakened and a lot of pressure on your opponent. Yeah, it's alright, it's good fun. So, to answer your question, Data, I want to explore things at the moment. That has been a good thing for me as well. I have found that I have been able to explore and try different things, and I've been more tempted to try different things, because I feel like there isn't just going to be dominant elements that I expect to face. And I think this is probably different than a lot of situations, but I think a lot of people are trying. A lot of people are testing, and thus the dominant stuff that we've seen previously isn't seeing as much play as it was, simply because people want to add variety in. The main thing I'm talking about is you don't see Kevin from every Lannister player, which means WOP is trying out Tywins. We've seen a bit more Gregor. We've seen some more Tyrion, which I think is great. Tyrion is a good commander. Great to see some more of him. So you get a much bigger selection there, which is a positive. I think from Targs are still playing Drogo. I haven't played that many Targs in the new patch, but they're still playing Drogo. Not a surprise to anyone. Night's Watch are not running Jon every game because Jon doesn't feel particularly good, which means that, I do think Night's Watch are struggling. But I've seen a variation of kind of what Night's Watch stuff has come up. We've seen quite a lot of a 7 activation Night's Watch all cavalry list with Benjen Stark, no cold hands. I run the version with Benjen in trackers. I know that Marky Mark, when he used to run the list, when he's done it previously, runs Benjen in the Vanguard. I tech piece in the Watch Marshal. Some people prefer to take Sam Gilly. I've been trying out Craster and Dennis, and Craster feels great. Removing a token and ignoring those terrain pieces, pretty nice. Do I think he's better than Aemon? I think he probably is in some scenarios, yeah. Do I think he's better than Donnell? Probably not. I think that Donnell still wins out over Craster. Dennis Mallister, very nice piece for just getting one of those abilities. Always rerolls a 1 condition token. Incredibly useful on those melee. Overall, all in all, Night's Watch do feel bad. They don't feel great. The deck does feel a bit clunky you spend a lot of your time trying to work out what triggers want to go where, because you only get that one activation, you need to get the right card on them and what tops halves you want. But once that kind of mental mind game has happened for a Night's Watch player, where they know the value of the top versus the bottom in the list that they're running, which I think is the big discussion point at the moment, is you want to evaluate the tops versus bottoms with the list that you're running. Once you've done that, you then can piece together the jigsaw of when you play each card and on what unit goes each card. So, yeah, it's all in all, it's interesting. But yeah, there's a lot to explore, a lot of fun to be had. It's nice to see that GCS aren't in every goddamn list. That is the big plus side. There was no real reason to screw Tybalt like that. Yeah, Tybalt was done dirty a little bit. Tybalt no longer gets the after activation kind of movement and onboard thing. Yeah, Tybalt is worse, but he's still not bad. I think he's fine. Got some interesting corner cases. Do I still run Craster? I think Craster's still fine. You just don't run him in the giant style list. It still works absolutely fine in infantry based lists, obviously. Have I enjoyed making lists? Yes. If they could get Martel versus Bolton down to a 55-45, that would be as much. Yeah, exactly. If Martel versus Bolton was like a 55% win rate, 45% win rate, that would be amazing. Really, I mean, we can talk about whether or not they need to bring Martel down. Really, what they need to do is bring Bolton up. If Bolton's re-enters the discussion and is able to bridge that obvious gap in ELO, you bring Bolton's up. That'll make... It's a closed system. Everything loses points if Boltons are coming up, or hopefully everything is losing points if Boltons are coming up, meaning that will naturally bring the whole scale down to a much closer range. And yeah, like that. Boltons need a bit of help, maybe still. Boltons are still... They were trending downwards very slowly because they were so bad and losing points was slow with them. Now they are trending upwards. We will see if that continues. I think they've still got a way to go. I do think there's some more improvements they could make to Boltons. The base deck is pretty crummy. But I still think that the Boltons have Boltons are... They're in the discussion now of at least there might be some competitive builds that people might want to put together for them. Whereas before there was 3 ways of playing Boltons, and that was the 3 different commanders. And those 3 different commanders all ran basically the same archetype. Like, there was no different way of playing Bolton. It was just the same lists every game. Whereas now, that's not entirely true. A little bit. May I have some with the Walder, using Walder and Aris combo in Oberyn commander lists. Yeah. I'm guessing that means like controlling the swords for a significant period of time by taking Aris onto swords top of the round, staying there for next round when your opponent's going first. Then the next round you take swords anyway, and you choose to go first with Walder on that next turn, so you basically get sword control for 4 rounds in a row. Kristen, is what I'm guessing you've done? Yeah, that might be quite fun. Could be that case that different factions are better at different ELOs. I don't really think that's true. I don't think that's massively true. Personally, I don't think that's massively true. I don't really believe in like skill floor, skill ceiling myself. I think either a faction is easy to play or... I think either a faction is strong or a faction is weak. If a faction is weak, it is harder to play because it is weak. And if a faction is strong, it is easier to play because it's strong. There are certain mechanical things in the game. For example, one of the big things is charge blocking. A lot of newer players are going to struggle with factions that really like charge blocking, but the truth is that every faction likes charge blocking. Different things do it differently, but every faction wants to do it. But people might struggle more with greater, squishy unit stuff like original Greyjoys and Free Folk were for a long time, where it was just like, I want to charge block all the time. People might struggle with that, but I think the average player understands charge blocking. They may or may not choose to use it, but that's ultimately an individual skill basis rather than a kind of a skill cap on the faction, if you will, or a skill ceiling or floor. Your second round using Walder to take first, round 3, then Aris to keep. What's the easiest or strongest neutral command? Dunno. My gut reaction is Ramsey, because I like Ramsey, because I really like putting out panic tokens and cycling them back for Cruel Methods, which is a really strong card. I think Cruel Methods is a great card, and I think that cycling it back with surprise strategies and keep healing is really effective. So personally, I would say Ramsey. Let's have a look at what the commander rankings suggest. Jockin, which again doesn't actually surprise me. The Jockin package, Widow is very strong for 0 points. Remember, gives Sundering on melee attacks and hold the line and counts as your Jockin for the purposes of tactics cards. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the Jockin commander package is doing very well in neutrals at all. And it's still not doing comparatively that well. It's only 13 points above. Dario is a lagging bit behind, 20 points off the pace of the rest of the pack. I think it's no longer a strong neutral infantry. I don't. I think it's great. I think it's great that the game isn't dominated by Golden Company swordsmen. I think that it's fantastic that 7-point infantry inside each faction, such as Kingsmen, such as Ironmakers and Silence Men. Can't think of anything else. Unsullied. I think it's great that these infantry units are now seeing play and that there's space for them in the game because they're not just worse than GC. Marwin, you call it charge blocking. I call it face tanking to explain my losses. You don't have to explain your losses, Marwin. It's fine. Wish neutrals were cut off into their own faction. Yeah. Yeah, they could be. All right then. So all in all, like, there's no big standouts really for me. I haven't seen anything dominate. I haven't seen any major kind of thing that I'm like I've looked at and gone, okay, I think that's a worry. I think that's scary. I do think Greyjoys have the potential to be pretty good, and I do think, and let's see. I want to see a particular ranking. We don't get the graphs with these, but I really think, yeah, House Umber Berserkers it's hard to understand a win rate and things with units, right? But House Umber Berserkers sitting down at 38.54% win rate in the last patch. Great Umber Berserkers were not doing that well. I'll just show you where their position is again on that list. They are already the 4th highest rated unit in stocks. I really think that Berserkers are gonna come up, and they are proving that they're coming up. So yeah. All in all, good day. It is worth, I think, pointing out. There you go. I didn't actually realise that, but I do now know, having looked at it for more than 5 seconds. I believe Carlo has reset the unit ELO rankings. Hence the reason you see such a wide spread and nothing's ridiculously high. So we're seeing new ELO rankings for units on the website. Hence the reason. Where's Varys, right? Varys was hundreds and hundreds of points. And wow. Wow. Varus been losing quite a lot of games. Yeah, Varus. Wow. One of the worst NCUs, apparently. Early days yet. Balon also at -15. What? Okay. I guess now that you can't respawn Silence Men with Victarion in them because Silence Men aren't as good. Courtney at -10? I don't know. Courtney always used to be rated lower than he actually think he was because I think everyone just ran him and played him. Well, that surprised me. I guess Greyjoys aren't doing very well. Cool. But yeah, all reset. Balon baffles my head in. I have no idea. That might just be indicative of Balon being in every Greyjoy list. I can't believe that Greyjoys. I can't believe that Balon has dropped from high level quality to. Really enjoy looking at new lists to use and having local players be happy to use different armies now. Sold out the event at Leeds and Lies, and it's lots. Yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of special rules myself. Special rules have time and place, definitely. But yeah, I think special rules, they can be hit and miss. But yeah. Have high hopes for this patch, except for Feel Folk Free. Victor, are you saying that Free Folk are a bad faction? Because I don't think they are, myself. Victor, I think Free Folk are still very strong. So yeah. I like the GCS are still a good niche pick for some commanders like Abara. Yeah. Yeah, GCS are like, I wouldn't say they're that good for Abara. It's not my initial go-to. But I still think the GCS are fine. I still think certain factions want to run GCS. And as a tech piece, I think that's not terrible for them. So yeah. Is the 2 wounds worth it to take Tycho over Walder? It's not about the amount of wounds, it's the timing. Tycho being not an activation, but top of turn, and Walder being a replace zone action means that Walder is a slow piece, like a value piece, whereas Tycho is more of a tempo piece. You don't have to waste tempo healing a lot. You don't have to do nothing. You can heal and do something. Whereas Walder is more like a, I'm going to heal, but do nothing else. Hi Timu, joining us. Don't know if it should take Stormcrow Archers or Crossbowmen. Whatever you think. Stormcrow Archers, probably the best for Jocking's cards. Yeah, I agree with you, Data. I think Free Folk are stronger post-patch, unless you're heavily giant focused. I think that too, but maybe we're wrong. You know, some people, you know, admit to having an anti-Free Folk bias, and always believing that Free Folk are going to be worse than they, or better than they actually end up being, or they think they're going to be bad, like problematic, and they are problematic. I think that they are strong myself. We will see. We'll see. We'll see when some events get played, because I don't think week is necessarily indicative of anything major, and that's quite clear if we look at the data. There's not significant change in that first week. Victor wants to play Giants. Yeah, but you know, if they nerf the Mag Smash list, the Mag 9 activation Smash list being nerfed, it's not a bad thing. I don't think it was like dominating the game in any stretch, but it was clearly quite strong, and it made dealing with Giants. I had this conversation with someone the other day, actually. The problem with Giants is not that Giants are bad. It never has been that Giants are bad. Giants are feels bad things. Anything like a giant, by its very nature, is very swingy. Either you have like a lot of auto wounds and ways to deal with resilience, in which case the giant feels pretty meh, feels pretty bad, or you don't, and you have to kind of chip down a giant. And if chipping down a dark giant feels awful. It is slow, it's ineffective, and it just kills you in the process. So you've got to look at it from the other player's perspective, the player you're playing opposite. Craster just meant it was almost impossible to chip down a giant. Like almost impossible. You had to either just kill it outright or have a very set circumstance, like list of things that happened. I used to kind of like when I was thinking about anti-giant tech, I was always about, right, I want to do this, thus making them use Craster once per game to heal 2. And then once they've done that heal 2, I'll do this and this at the end of the round and the start of the next round in like a combo. And if I can do those 2 things together, then I should be able to kill any giant. And the simple truth of the matter is that it's all well and good, but like that's a lot for like a player to think about and to plan around, and it's not realistic. Not realistic. So you think about giants on the other hand. I still don't like giant design. I still don't like the giant design. I still think it's very swingy. I think it's very kind of like you have a solution or you don't, and like it just feels not great. Does Hedge Knights or Flame Men gain more from Glory Seeker? Either or. There's no real right answer to that. They're different pieces for different reasons. Giants are rock paper scissors list. Yep. 100%. All right then. So public service announcement time. I've left it 50 minutes before doing a public service announcement. And I'm not talking about the Invitational, although you should check the Invitational out. And if you want to get along to what hopefully will be one of the best events ever run for Song of Ice and Fire, definitely the most competitive event we hope for a Song of Ice and Fire. Stuff on the invite list. Ask Carlo if you can come along. Go out there, win your own nationals, win some big events, stuff down. Or, come and create some content, hang out with us for the weekend. It's going to be great. Crone says, I wish they rolled more dice for giants. Yeah, the 1 dice roll seems kind of boring. It's all or nothing. It is a very all or nothing mechanic, and yeah, it just goes into that further down that design philosophy of just the design of giants being very clunky and being like either this kind of you just win games or lose games based on the design of it rather than necessarily on play and counterplay that much. And that's not to say that there isn't play and counterplay. Like, I'm not saying that this thing just ignores the game, but I liken giants very heavily to kind of scorpions and catapults in that kind of like there's certain mechanics in the game they can just kind of ignore a little bit, and that makes them feel worse to play. And also play with. Are there factions in general that struggle more with giants, or does every faction have to play? No, some factions don't. Not really. Lannisters almost entirely rely on Gregor and Lance Cav and Crossbowmen to do it. Like, that's basically the only solutions they have. Baratheon, they can try and go down an auto wound route with Renly, but really Baratheons haven't got much of a hope. They just have to keep them weakened and hope they don't kill them. But Mag, Baratheons just die to Mag, completely just evaporate to Mag the Mighty. It's not even funny. Looking forward to the Invitational, says Data. Yes, yeah, so am I. Right. So, I did say public service announcement time. The public service announcement is, for those of you wondering, and those of you thinking that we maybe went a bit too hard in last week on certain changes in the rulebooks and certain tournament guideline changes, there's been a change to the rulebook. I was surprised to find out that some people didn't know about this change until yesterday, and even today, some people still didn't know about this. And this actually happened a week ago. So we obviously reviewed this on the day of the release. We went through, we did the stream last week. after the stream, sometime between the stream and the next evening, so Tuesday evening, when I got the opportunity to play the game, Banners and Butchery changed the game scoring. You now score 3 victory points each time a friendly unit destroys an enemy objective. So not every time your opponent's objective is destroyed. And no longer at the end of the game. You score 3 points there and then when you kill an enemy objective. Which is a big change for the way that the scoring was originally laid out. You only score 3 at the end of the game if any friendly objective is killed. Or enemy objective is killed. Which means you can now kill your own objectives for freebies, if you will. And yeah, there's a lot to be said. Now, I've played 2 games of Banners and Butchery. I have seen multiple games streamed of Banners and Butchery on Discord, people playing on TTS against one another, playing Banners and Butchery. And I know that Willybunks, who is a TO in his area, did indeed play Banners and Butchery in his event over the weekend. What can I tell you? The overwhelming consensus so far from competitive players, Banners and Butchery is awful. From less competitive players, from average players, Banners and Butchery is awful. From Willybunks' event, I'll get up what he said. This is all in the Tourney Ground chat on the main Discord. I believe his guys said yeah, pretty bad game mode unless they continue to tweak it. Yeah. Yeah. As Chris Baker, as Chris F&M has been saying since the patch, instead of Banners and Butchery, we should just call it Fun with Flags. Yeah. Nathan, good time for me to jump on the stream, says Nathan. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't great. You can kill your own objectives and block it. Yeah. Do you think the devs were watching when they made this change? No, Evil. No, definitely not. Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I played once in person. No, I don't want to play that. And Crones summed it up. So I did play one game against Crones or Brandon, and he said he loves the intent of the game mode but hates the execution. Yeah, I can kind of get the intent, but the execution's just poor, and the gameplay was poor. In both of the games I played, like I won both of them. In one of the games, I killed my opponent's commander as it was like one of the first units I killed in my opponent's army after he'd killed one unit. So he was up 1-0 with his commander kill. I then killed his commander. I think I killed it with my commander. I can't remember. Meaning that it was like 1-1. He was then penned in to his side of the board, and he didn't have much cavalry in order to get around behind me and things like that. Didn't have the maneuverability to do so. He was down on units and he was down on board footprint and all these kind of things. So he spent, I think the game ended round 5, the first action or first actions on round 5. My opponent spent rounds 2 through 5 basically retreating, with his unit dying on round 2. Right, early round 2 as well. So through the majority of round 2 through to round 5, my opponent basically didn't feel they could win the game. The score was 1-1 until round 4. Like, awful game mode where one player feels that they can't win. And I know that people say that they feel they can't win, and it looks like they can't win earlier in games than perhaps is necessarily true. A lot of people do kind of give up a bit too early, perhaps. And hey, I fully of the opinion that I have done that in the past as well. I try and keep myself well aware of it. But I can a number of times think of games where I'm like, oh god, I'm going to lose. I'm just like, oh, sod it. I'm going to lose, and then I end up winning the game or pulling it back to much closer than it should have been. 100%. I know that I've done that. So I'm not surprised that many others do as well. So game's not over till game is over. But this game mode feels like shit for one player. If they lose their commander early and they can't get to tokens, maybe it was with an infantry army or something like that, the game mode feels like utter garbage. Because you just don't really win. You can't really win. And you can't really win for the majority of the game. And you know you can't win for the majority of the game. So you very rarely realise quickly that just sacrifice units slowly, die slowly, because if you die slowly, you might not get tabled. And if you don't get tabled, the other player won't get a crushing win because the way they score is too difficult to warrant victory points. Like, both of the games I've played of Banners and Butchery, I think I've even played 3, now that I think about it. I think all of the games of Banners and Butchery I've played, now that I think about it, have been like pathetically crap scorelines. And every single one of them has been a tabling. Every single one has had to be a table. And that's just bad. That's just bad design. Really bad design. So yeah, Banners and Butchery, guys, like, play it. If you haven't played it, play it. I recommend it. But I recommend playing it so you experience it. I don't recommend the game mode. But I have literally played it. 1-1. Wipeout. That was Thrones. This one? That was Clash. Hey, there's a good game mode. Shame that that's not in competitive play. Yep, Banners and Butchery. 3 points to 1. Wipeout. Like, that was different. I think that's it. I've only played the 2. May have played a third one. I can't remember. But yeah. Oh no, I played a third one against as a training game against Jake. Yeah, 3 games, 3 game modes, all of them wipeouts. Really bad design. And Nathan says there in chat, half the games of Banners and Butchery in his event ended 0-0. One of those 0-0 games, one of the players was tabled. They lost a game by 0 VPs because they got tabled. No one scored anything the whole game. Like, what? What's the point of having a VP mechanic? It's pointless. It's really pointless. Sorry, this is my angry bit of the stream. I know people don't necessarily like it, but Banners and Butchery is not good. Fun with Flags is not good. Not even that fun. Sounds like a public beta test period would have been helpful. Yes, Evil. Yes. Connected to this, I'm still annoyed they took Clash out of the tournament rotation. Yep. One of my favourite scenarios and always seem popular with most people. Yeah, Clash, a very popular scenario. People generally like Clash. And it has been removed from the rotation, which I think is crazy. Honed and Ready's still in, right? Fire and Blood went out. Fire and Blood I can kind of get. Was the worst of all the game modes, if anything. So they could have made changes to it, kept it in, but no. You killed Rick Harmer and I couldn't get to your objectives for 4 rounds to get any additional points. So it was GG after round 2. Yep. GG after round 2, but you have to play it out knowing that you can never win for a long time. Well, this is probably discussed many times ago, but just don't have the end. Don't have the game end. Keep playing and see how many points the player loses. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can do that, yeah. We played at our local tournament this weekend. The resounding opinion, even from new players, was meh. Yes, if new players are saying a game mode which is incentivizes killing one another, and the new players who love killing one another, generally speaking, you know, people love those kind of missions, and new players are saying meh, then that is a problem. Like, that is straight up like there's a poor design. You're not appealing to the very people that it should appeal to. So, like, no good. Instead of replacing Fire and Blood with banners and bullshit, how about this? Put a 2-point objective in the middle of the table for Fire and Blood. How about we start there, Simon? Yep. I was even suggesting you could have 1 objective in the middle, or you could even have 3. Put 3 objectives in the middle, 8 inches away from one another. 1 in the middle, 1 either 8 inches either side, so that there is a real incentive to control the middle ground. And that might mean 2 people controlling objectives fighting each other, but who cares? You want to incentivize these grinds, you want to incentivize this kind of fighting. That is the way to do it. Are there any good custom missions that people have shared? Yes, there are tons. It depends what you're looking for. Boardman Gaming. Boardman Gaming is one to check out. Boardman Gaming. Well, he doesn't do kind of missions. He does scenarios. So do check out Boardman Gaming because he has tons. Like, I mean, it's stupid how much custom stuff he has on here that he's designed and developed. There's loads of stuff on here. Custom scenarios, custom game modes, custom campaigns, you name it. Do check out his work. And his work is great. Shane at Boardman Gaming does a fantastic job. And he's a lovely bloke. Been on the show before. And yeah, do recommend looking at his stuff. There is an absolute ton of stuff. You've never used it before. A lot of these are custom scenarios rather than game modes, but yeah, there's tons. Hits and crits agreeing with me about Banners and Butchery. Yep, German community agreeing, which is good to see. Well, not good to see, but it's interesting. They're not having different opinions. How would I fix it? How would I fix Banners and Butchery? I think the immediate solution is just get away with the destruction of objectives, right? I kind of get why they have the destruction of objectives in there, and it's because they want to incentivize being aggressive, but they don't want to just make it so that something can outflank, walk on, take the objective, and just win the game because they scored 3 points like straight away. Imagine a Harakar. Like, this is where I really struggle with Banners and Butchery. If your opponent's running Harakars, you can't leave your objectives alone. Because they just come on. They can easily get onto the objective with a maneuver. They might need to, well, actually, no, they can maneuver onto it because you can deploy your Harakar horizontal, pivot, move 6, and you have enough to gain the objective, I believe. I'm actually going to do some quick math here. Load up TTS quick. Because that might be really bad. Let's try this. I never really thought about this in terms of, like, I knew we could do it. I didn't realize kind of like the impact it would have if it's kind of true that it's doing this so quickly. Let's go for that one. Double check the, because if the geometry in this works the way I think it does, then against certain outflank stuff, you actually just are gonna have a miserable time. Now you'll have to forgive me. This is obviously not going to be 100% perfect. So just bear that in mind. Bring back victory through combat and capture points if you control at the end of the round. Start. Yeah, you could do. I mean, the obvious thing is just bring back victory through combat. It's weird that they want to have victory through combat in the game, but then immediately say, but victory through combat, while we want it, isn't what on. What? You know what I mean? It's odd that they want the game to be about killing and then they don't make it about killing. the slight. Okay, right. So here's your 12 inches line, 12 and 12. It should be, the objective should be there, by the way they seem to describe it. And if you've got a long based unit, such as a war machine, so this is Harakar, deploy there, because you get the angle on the pivot, yeah. You move 6, you fully encompass the token, lock that in place, just experience that. And you'd have to deploy sideways. So the key here is because you gain quite a big distance, you deploy a tram line against the edge, and then you pivot in, you move your 6, and you immediately destroy the objective with your action. Gone. You just gone 3 victory points. You could do the same with 3 victory points. You could. The thing is, they don't have outflank. You need outflank to be able to do this effectively, because you can never be aggressive now against a unit against Harakars. You can never realistically be aggressive unless, because you can only destroy the objectives from round 2 onwards, unless you deploy on the objectives. That's how stupid this is. You deploy on them here and over here, and round 2 you destroy them so you can put them further ahead, so you can't be flanked. But like, this is so much effort for what is just minimal game plan and like effect. Like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing any of this? This seems pointlessly crap. I hate it. I hate it so much because it's not actually interesting, right? You can't score round 1, Nathan. Willy Bunks. Nathan, you can't score round 1, but you can score round 2. So round 2, you just put Harakars in the backfield and go, well, I'm running 3-0. And if you don't do anything about it, I'll run and go and kill the other objective very quickly. And I'll be up 6-0. For reference, let's actually draw this on. Now, unfortunately, you need to... I mean, you do that with your activation. If you get horses, of course, on the next round, you could do... Let's actually map this out. I want to see if it's possible to just win the game with 1 Harakar. I know that seems crazy, but bear with me on this. And I know that just winning the game with 1 Harakar is not really fair, because that's not how the game works. Deploy that there and there. Those are the 2 objectives. Start the game. You put the Harakar on. Yeah. I'm going to move it back just. So we activate move 6, destroy. That's round 2 you deployed from outflank. You kill that in round 2. Round 3, let's say you get the horse. 6. 6. And 12 is comfortable. You need horse to definitely get there, but you can get onto that on round 3, meaning on round 4 you can kill it going up 6-0. So you can spend a 4-point unit gaining 6 victory points in round 4. I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem because if you can keep this unit alive, you can also never be tabled. So all you need to do is stop them from scoring your VPs or just killing your VPs and slaughtering you with their commander, and it's really kind of like GG. So this is the problem, Carl. I mean, can't you just deploy to defend it? Of course you could. Of course you could deploy to defend the tokens. Of course you could. Problem is that if you're deploying to defend both tokens with 2 units, you're never going to be able to take mine. Yeah, you're never going to win with just a Harakar. Yes, one Harakar does not win a game, but it's the point being is that like you can't be aggressive with anything, but you need a way of responding to this immediately. And certain factions can't do that. Certain factions can't just turn on a dime, so they need cavalry. And I know the solution to all these things is always have cavalry anyway, but like I think this is just terrible design. Like I really think that this is terrible design. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I think that this is very bad design for the game mode. I think fixing it, you should be looking at adding victory through combat in straight away. Like for victory through combat, just obviously do that first and foremost. As a first solution, that's probably your best one to go with. Then if it's not victory through combat, you could make it so the objectives are worth less to kill, but they're easier to kill. So when you control them, you could even that would actually be way more interesting. When you move on to them and control them, if you control them at the end of the round, if you control an enemy objective at the end of the round, you score like 2 points. It's automatically destroyed, but it has to be the end of the round. You score 2 and it's removed and put back on somewhere else. And that would mean that it's not, you couldn't just move on to it with a free maneuver. You could even sit on it and like take swords to kill it kind of thing. Most of the time you are going to be on it at the end of the round if you attack to destroy it anyway. But at least here it's kind of like you actually have to be there. I don't know, something like that. It's too slow at the moment. It's far too slow for infantry to be able to reasonably remove these tokens in most game scenarios. And yet, yeah, it just feels like a cavalry only game mode. Like it really does feel like a cavalry only game mode. I'm sorry, it does. I just think it's just bad. And yeah, you can destroy objectives and move them and things like that, and defend them both with one unit. It's possible, but then you just talk about like the start of games being like the same for everyone. You don't want things that just make lists and games more homogenized. Those are bad changes. You don't want game modes and everything that does that. Like anything that makes the games homogenize is just bad, in my opinion. It's been a week. Let's play it a bit more. No, that's the thing, Carl. Like, I agree we do need to play it a bit more, but we actually don't need to play it much more. The game doesn't the game mode isn't changing by us playing it more. It already feels bad. We can already identify where the issues are in the game mode. Letting it exist for longer and playing it more doesn't make those issues go away. Unless what you're trying to say is those things aren't something we need to worry about because we as players are going to change. We're not. This isn't like some people are saying it's great and other people are saying it's bad. It's almost unanimously being agreed it's not very good. And people are even coming out and saying, I understand what they've tried to do. I understand the direction they've tried to go in. I can even understand the merits of what they've tried to do. But the final result is bad. This isn't one of these, this is just shit because it's shit. This is one of these, you've tried something and it's clear it's not worked. It's not worked. It doesn't mean the thing you've tried isn't worth trying. Yeah, that's the big issue. Not just cut and paste or cut and dried, this is bad, get rid of it. Although that's sometimes what I say. But yeah. Okay. There are still some outstanding changes to the tournament rulebook as well. I'm not going to go into too big a detail at the moment with this. Interestingly, they've changed the... Well, let's have a look. Tournament guidelines season. I think they've changed the tournament guidelines again. Wow. So for reference, I have the previous version of the tournament guidelines open. That was Song of Ice and ASO. Right. I'm just going to show people this. It's easier. This is the link. Barely see that on the stream there, but it's asoif.s3.amazon.aws.com/forward/pdf/pdf/season_tournament_guidelines_season_4.pdf. So this is the AWS bank where they store all their PDFs, right? The website. Now, what's interesting is we saw 291 is the season 4 rulebook. We have now got, for the tournament guidelines, as I've just loaded them up, literally right now, the tournament guidelines are now 301. So the new link is 301, implying there has been changes to the tournament guidelines. Yes, straight away I can tell there's been changes because the front page used to have the alternative list building construction on it. So they already have changed this. Okay? Let's have a little look. Okay. To page 2 on the tournament guidelines used to have this, the list of game modes, the valid game modes. Valid game modes has now changed position where it used to be. Alternate format's still in there. Talk about sportsmanship, although it doesn't say anything about conceding games or forfeiting games. Number of rounds, fine. It's still less than 30 points, so still odd game modes. Pairings. Right. Now they talk about crushing victories. Yes. Okay, so the tournament guidelines now have crushing, standard, and narrow victories back in the tournament guideline document. So we don't have victory points as a second scoring thing, which for a period of time was actually a thing. They have changed the tournament guidelines to go back to including secondary points, not victory points. And they have changed the forms. Remember, these used to say victory points as well. These have now changed. So the way that Stats has been doing events, which was right in the old rules, wrong if you go way, way, way back to when they first started. They said VPs and we were like, no, that's stupid. The team tournament outline, the narrow crushing standard. We have gone back to crushing standard narrow. So they've clearly actually updated the tournament guidelines. The big criticism was they didn't update the tournament guidelines. They just added some extra info at the start. They have now rewritten and or at least updated the tournament guidelines to match or mirror that of the team tournament, meaning that the way that Stats runs tournaments is the correct way. Also, the conceding player is given a loss with 0 victory points and 0 secondary points, and conceding and spite conceding. Conceding was actually almost encouraged in the last version of the rules because you got 0 tournament points for a loss, 0 tournament points for a forfeit. So you could spite concede against players to deliberately give them less VPs, which was the secondary condition at the time, as well as less UDs, which was a tertiary tiebreaker condition at the time, meaning that spite conceding against players, if you knew there was going to be like a contested winner, was potentially a way of denying someone the opportunity of doing well in an event. I'm not saying that happens. I'm not even saying that that's a big thing, but like that's common. But any rule set that doesn't discourage that is poor, because you're discouraging bad sportsmanship. You're not discouraging bad sportsmanship, and that's a bad thing. You want to discourage bad sportsmanship. So yeah, fantastic. They've changed the tournament guideline so it's correct. It all makes sense. They talk about terrain and everything as usual. Like, nothing there. I think most of this is very much exactly what we expect on the tin. So I think everyone can celebrate. The newest version of the tournament guidelines are what everyone is basically playing on the tournament guideline package. Also, it no longer says you should ignore the Storm of Swords, even though Storm of Swords wasn't in the competitive play pool anyway, but it used to say Storm of Swords was ignored. Still Clash of Kings and Fire and Blood out for Banner and Butchery. Fair enough. You've already announced Banners and Butcheries out, and Clash of Kings is in for local tournaments. Yeah, you know, I think that's reasonable. If you're running that in your local events, that's fine. I think that's not a problem. Personally, I don't see any issue with that. There you go. Some good news on a Tuesday. The tournament guideline document, Banners and Butchery, has been changed to make it at least a little bit more sentient. Still not great. The tournament guidelines has been changed kind of back to what we expect, which is great. Thumbs up from me. Yeah, you didn't need to change. You didn't need to change it. You haven't changed it in the end, and it's a way better system. It's a good system. There are better systems, of course. Everyone will always say there are better systems, but I think this is the best system we've ever had for Song. It's one of the only systems, of course, and I think it's absolutely fine. Happy days. Good tournament guidelines. And I know that was feedback I actually gave directly to Demon as well. I'm not saying it was my feedback that changed it. I think quite a few people fed that back, but I'm glad they noticed it and got it changed rather than just accepting it. Good. That's a positive for everyone. Cool. I want to do a quick whistle stop tour. Things I think people should try out. I don't think these things are particularly cool. Oh no, I don't think they're particularly good if we talk about competitive play, but I think they're really cool and fun to play right now. First of all, the first thing to hit the bench, and I've played this in a few games, and I think it absolutely slaps. And who doesn't want a unit that just slaps? Right? We go for Melisandre, King's Men with Ramsay Theon, probably in a Stannis OTK list. Yeah, the rest of the list fill out with whatever you want, right? Probably a DSN. This slaps. Get Melisandre on this unit, take a couple of wounds, take a panic test on a 5+, you'll probably be fine. Then you have Vicious, Sundering, Crit Blow, and rerolls, and IP, and you also give panic tokens out. This unit absolutely slaps face, and you also have Fuel by Slaughter. You just go around and just punch people in the face and you start one-shotting people. Great fun. It's a 9-point infantry unit, but you know what? It's a 9-point infantry unit backed up by a 5-point NCU, and it feels like a 9-point unit backed up by a 5-point NCU. It doesn't have got a cav move, therefore it's not great. It's not competitively amazing, but go and play this unit if you want to try it. Have some fun, guys. This absolutely slaps, right? That's my Stannis recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2. Obviously, they were going to make an appearance. I've mentioned them so many times. Try the Hurricanes. So many people said Hurricanes are bad because they die to a stiff breeze. Who cares? Go try Hurricanes. I think they're awesome. I'm yet to play them, but I've got some ideas and I've got some lists that I've got with them. I think they're really cool. I think they're really interesting. Go play them, please. A request. Greyjoys. If you haven't already seen, people are already talking about Trappers being a little bit back. Hey. If Trappers are back, that's cool. I'm not 100% sure myself. Give them a try. Black Tide Chosen, though, these guys are back on the menu. Give them a try at 6 points. First claim is sick. Get them on the table. Run some Black Tide Chosen. Laugh in your opponent's face. Also, Stoneshore Pillagers, try them out. Neutrals, I don't know. Try Lysine Sellswords. They feel like they haven't seen enough play. Go try them out. Also, try the new Bloody Mama Skirmishers. Also, try New Dervishes. I think New Dervishes are quite cool, especially if you give them support. Would recommend. Lannister. I have to admit, there's nothing here that I'm really that interested in trying in Lannister. Try New Joffrey. By New Joffrey, I mean the Kingsguard. Try Kingsguard. Have good fun with Kingsguard. I reckon they might be okay. Need I say, I mean, I mentioned them earlier, need I say what you want to try? Try them Berserkers. And if you haven't been trying Berserkers, or you have been trying Berserkers and you want to try something different, try them Ravagers. Berserkers and Ravagers, man. They are both sick. Go check them out. Night's Watch, Cavalry Lists, Vanguard, Trackers, try them out. I also think you should try Craster. I really like Craster. I think it was quite cool. I thought it was interesting. Gave me a little pause of thought and, like, you know, made me think about NCU choices. Not Burnmarsh. Free Folk. Maybe try Mance again. Mance wasn't on the menu for Season 3 that much. Try Mance again. Mance is probably very playable. Also try Tormund. Tormund's good fun. True Varamir. Didn't play too much anyway. Martell! Oh my god, Martell. I have a special thing in everyone's hearts for Martell. Put Aereo Hotar in Darkstar Retinue and go and slap face. This is the unit that I ran into Jake in a training game. And I know that this is completely unrealistic. Completely just anecdotal evidence, anecdotal discussion. I was able to charge Aereo Hotar in the Darkstar Retinue into the flank of some King's Men. And I uppercut them. They failed the last rolls and the panic test. They just died. Immediately I took like 3 wounds from range attacks or something. Maybe 6 wounds from range attacks. And then they got overrun and like half killed a unit of Lightbringers. And that was round 1. Then round 2, I killed a DSN and finished off the Lightbringers. My god. Aereo Hotar Darkstar Retinue. You get to just fire shots and kill people. It is great fun. Especially with Sound Skirmishers in support, because you can, especially with the High Earner Sentinel, because you can just go, I'm going to go over here, and then I'm going to use my order to mark that unit with precision rerolls. In come the Darkstar Retinue, bang, 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 kill everyone, overrun, have some fun stuff. Fully recommend. Anecdotal evidence doesn't mean it's always good. It's fun. We want fun stuff, right? And yeah, I mentioned it before, but I reckon you should really try it. Really, really try it. Get your Stormcrow Dervishes on the table and get Steelshanks Walton. All the way around. Get your Stormcrow Dervishes on the table and get Steelshanks Walton in them. Who doesn't like charging 12 inches automatically with crit blow? And yeah, you don't have anything else going on. But that free reposition from the Swift Strike, ooh, that's juicy in Boltons. Especially when you've got cards that say when you fail morale tests or panic tests, you get free maneuvers. Is great fun. Love a little bit of that with the Stormcrow Dervs. So much control on the field and just movement and shenanigans. Fully recommend it. It was great fun to try, and I enjoyed it. It was an enjoyable experience running that combo. And I think I failed like 2 or 3 panic tests with the unit. It was quite funny. On like a 4+ or even a 3+, I think, at one point. And it was great fun to use it, and I just really enjoyed the unit. So fully recommend. These are not things I think are good. These are things I think are fun. Did you think about Thornwatch plus Rorge? Is it fun as well? But the thing is, you have to take bloody... You feel bad for not taking Biter, right? What's Rorge going on? Elusive Escape and Thingy, right? And Insight? Yeah. I haven't tried it, but I feel like 8 points is expensive. I expected to do a lot. Maybe this is better than I give it credit for. Yeah, I might give that a try. Bottle. Okay. Cool. If you haven't seen, the other thing that I said I would mention today is Tic Tacs. And I don't mean Tic Tacs as in the mints you put in your mouth. I mean A Song of Ice and Fire Tactics. Song of Ice and Fire Tactics is it's all up on GameFound. We mentioned it last week, but it is all up here on GameFound. It launches in 2-3 days from now, give or take. Videos there. They did a breakdown of it, and they have officially announced for the game that the game is no longer taking place in a fixed time zone. And when I say the game, I mean A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, not Tactics. The miniatures game is no longer fixed to the post-death of Robert Baratheon. Fixed point in time is gone. That means that we can have stuff from earlier in the timeline, such as young Eddard and young Barristan. It means that we can have Rob Baratheon on the field. It means that we can have Rhaegar Targaryen. It means we can have earlier versions of Roose. Okay? All of these things are coming, and there is cross-compatibility. You can see here Robert Baratheon is a commander coming out for Baratheons, and he is going to have Baratheon Might, Thrill of Battle, and Rush of Aggression Tactics cards. The components from Tactics are fully usable inside A Song of Ice and Fire. So expect some alt sculpts for some existing characters and commanders, as well as alternative sculpts for base troops, such as Baratheon Wardens and Stag Knights, for example, in Baratheon. We also know that they are looking to bring out smaller boxes, where I think one of them is called War Beneath the Wall or Battle Beneath the Wall, obviously referencing the Free Folk versus Night's Watch face-off at the Wall. Loads more coming, loads more announced. Tactics could be an interesting game. I'm not going to talk about Tactics too much. I think whether or not you enjoy Tactics and what you enjoy about Tactics is up to you. But it looks like all the sculpts and stuff can be used in Song, and they will get transition. And I will be super honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they start selling out packs that allow you transition units from Song into Tactic. So just watch this space. Who doesn't love Bobby? Also John Aaron, for a long time. John Aaron, who, by the way, if anyone does or doesn't know, this guy looks incredibly like Donald Sutherland. The artwork, incredibly like Donald Sutherland. Dark Sword Minis have done a great job if they wanted to make Donald Sutherland, to tell you. But Hoster Tully, who we've not seen, of course, in Song so far. Alt Roose, Dennis Aaron, the Aarons seeing quite a large amount of play in both John and Dennis. Seeing Tactics, so hopefully Aaron's coming out for Song soon. Malister, faction unseen in Song so far, but Malister being part of Baratheons, right? Malisters are... Oh, that's got me bad there. It's bad I don't know that, isn't it? Malisters are a Baratheon sigil, right? Am I remembering that right? No, they're Tully, aren't they? Yeah, there'll be Stark in the game. My god, that's bad. Bad knowledge right there. Woof, woof, woof. House Aaron, yes. Maybe we'll get Lady in the game now that Lady can exist, because the fixed point in time is gone. Gender cards. I thought they were going to call Tactics cards originally, because they have the Tactics card zones on the back. I was disappointed when they called them agenda cards. Fine. Yeah. Ground trackers, equipment stuff, whatever. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Check it out anyway, and check out some of the cool stuff that's going to be coming to Song off the back of this, is my opinion. I think there's going to have some great stuff come to Song because of Tactic being released, and hopefully you see a lot of cool stuff coming to the game. Yeah, don't have much to add there. This game will be its own game. Enjoy it or don't enjoy it at your own pleasure. Back it or don't back it at your own pleasure. I know for a fact that Song will get some stuff coming out of the back of it. And the fact that the fixed point in time is now gone and they are basically saying that everything's going to be cross-compatible is I think cool, is awesome. Yeah, all in all, pretty happy. Pretty happy with that news. Been a good week. Been a good week for Song. We've seen improvements to the tournament document. We've seen Tactics get announced and finally get all the hype and everything. Good, all good news coming out for Tactics as well, I think. And the game is in a good spot. Nothing seems too broken. Everything seems to be pretty fun to play. And a lot of factions have some great stuff going on as well. Yeah. We'll leave it there for this week, probably. What we will do, though, is I will finish off for you. Some nice pictures. Some House Umber Great Axes with some really nice and tasteful non-metallic metal on the kind of Great Axe heads. The blade, nearly forgot the name there. The blade of the Great Axe as well. Looks really awesome there. Love that. Rear. Okay. And now we have same unit, but this time with Mr. Great John Amber, with the newer sculpt, his horn. So. Going in with the rest of the characters this person has painted up. Love it. Absolutely love it. These are all from Peugeot, who we've seen plenty of stuff on here before. Including things like his Telecavaliers and his Brendan and things like that. Thanks a lot for sending those in, Peugeot, and strong zeros from me. He's got more that he's going to send me as well. See those in due course. I did actually receive some other ones as well. I will quickly. I say quickly. I've already lost them. Here we go. Edgehopper sent me the painting entries for his event. This is back in Chicago. This was actually back in January, technically last weekend. I had one that I wanted to show off to people. This is the first time I saw it, actually. That's fully painted gold cloaks. First time I'd seen fully painted gold cloaks that wasn't like artist done. I thought those were really cool. I really like those. I don't think they won, but yeah. The winning of this particular prize though was these as best painted unit for a lovely painted unit of Kingsmen, and the Kingsmen models are sick. I am so glad that they are good again. Fully expect to see some Kingmen on the table, and I am not disappointed. Every time I see Kingsmen, I'm like, why have I not seen those models enough? They are lovely. So well done for that. Awesome stuff. We saw a bunch of characters painted at this event as well, and there was a lovely painted Oberyn, as well as Joffers. Okay. As well as Mr. Kevin himself. A classic bunch of characters from the game there. Yeah. Congrats all round. I quite liked this Brienne as well. Proper like war-torn haggard there. I love it. Love the style and everything they've gone for that. Yeah. It's great to see some absolutely beautiful painting from Edgehopper that's in Chicago. Yeah, well done to everyone, guys. Big fat zeros from me all around. Yes, I'll send LVO winners pictures because there's a funny man. Pictures of painted stuff will see the screen. Stuff I like, I will put on the screen, and stuff I appreciate, I will put on screen. even if it's been like a week or two out of date, just because of time and things when I can put it on. But I will always show off people's painted stuff, especially if they're proud of it, because who doesn't want those sweet ass zeros? You can't quite see my painting tray. See that wooden board just there? That one. That's my painting tray. It's actually my painting thing. I just go out and put it on my desk. I've got far too much on there that I'm still doing. Actually, I took a bunch of it off. That's hilarious. One-off characters, bunch of stuff. Other stuff on my desk there. I've got some. Yeah, I'll be painting. I've been trying to get into some painting recently, but I just haven't had the right mindset and enthusiasm for it. But every time you guys send something in, it just makes me think, oh, I should probably do that. And I get distracted by something else, or you know how life is. Anyway, pleasure to have you all on here again with us, guys. I do appreciate. We had record-breaking numbers last week for Tourney Ground. Number of people tuning in. Great to see a strong contingent out again this week. We will try something a bit new next week. Hopefully, I have some new stuff to show you guys. Cool stuff. I'm hoping to get sorted this weekend, if I can get it sorted. And yeah, we'll just mix it up. And maybe if I can get the guests sorted as well, I'll get the guest on. And yeah, let's keep enjoying Season 4, guys. It seems pretty good so far. It's pretty fun. Proof that he wears pants on stream. Yeah. I think just enjoy yourself. You know, go and enjoy Season 4. There's some competitive stuff with it, I think, in the coming few weeks that will kind of iron itself out. But I really like the variety of stuff we're seeing, the variety of things being played. I'd be really interested to see the data from February in relation to like kind of pick rates and things like that, and where we see the big changes. I think it's going to look really good. I think Season 4 is shaping up to be a nice season. I still think there's some things that I would consider pretty good. Shame about the Manners and Butchery being competitive game mode. All in all, guys, go and enjoy Season 4. Have a great week. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many.
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stop me!